When the stomach is empty, the body is healthy. But it's when the stomach is full, now it's the onset of illness, the onset of disease. And as we heard when somebody asked about the Prophet ﷺ, and he was a non-Muslim, he said, what was it that your Prophet and he gave you of medicine? And he replied the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. Eat and drink but not to excess. And then the person replied that your Prophet left nothing for Galen. Galen, the great, physician of the Greeks, he left nothing for Galen. I.e., all of medicine, all of health is inside the Rabbis. Kulu, eat, washrabu, and drink, wala tusrifu, but not to excess. When the Muqawqis of Masr, the Muqawqis of Egypt, after Sayyidina Hatim ibn Balti'a, who takes the letter in the 6th year after Hijrah, he takes the letter of the Prophet ﷺ to the Muqawqis, the Coptic king of Egypt, and so the Coptic king who embraces what the letter of the Prophet ﷺ from a perspective, he has adab, which is the very reason why the Copts are still in Egypt to this day. He has adab with the letter of the Prophet ﷺ, and he thereby sends presents to the Prophet ﷺ. He sends utensils, he sends beasts, he beats a donkey, the great donkey Duldul. He also sends women as well. From amongst the women he sends is who? Maria Qubtiya. But of the things that he sends, he also sends a doctor to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Egyptians, remember ancient Egypt, and the traditions of the Egyptians, it's well known, their skill in medicine. And so when the doctor comes to eat, he comes to Medina to Munawwara, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, like, we embrace everything that the Muqawqis has given us except the doctor. The doctor can go back to Egypt. We don't need doctors. And so the doctor argues, says every society needs a doctor. And the Prophet says we don't need a doctor. But if you want to stay in Medina, marhaba, ahlan wa sahlan, remain in Medina. So he remains in Medina to Munawwara for one entire year. After one entire year, he goes back to the Prophet ﷺ complaining that he has not one single patient in Medina to Munawwara, not one single person. And so he says, and the Prophet ﷺ says, we are a people, we don't need doctors. And he says, why? He says, because we eat and we drink, but not to excess. That's what he said, very simple. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And if you try to look at the diseases of modern man, and how many of the diseases of modern man are directly traced to the stomach. To that which we place inside of the stomach. And then thereafter, even if somebody looks at, even as an example, sexually transmitted diseases, I'm just giving it as an example. Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala said the reason why was the stomach in the beginning, isn't it? I mean, it will trace back indirectly to your relationship with food. But primarily those main diseases that we have, whether we're looking at cardiovascular disease or we're looking at cancer ailments or what have you, it's the stomach. It's the stomach, a failure for us to take into consideration how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create man, and what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create man to fuel himself with, to eat. And the size of the portions, the times one's supposed to eat, the types of foods we're supposed to eat. You can find books now like Grain Brain. It's a really brilliant book called Grain Brain. It said that the human being wasn't designed to eat any type of grains whatsoever. Because you find that the consumption of grain is relatively new for the human being. We can look at the exception, certain grains, which is with the Prophet ﷺ, which is only barley, ﷺ. He never ate wheat, period, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And so barley, but then in moderation, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ra'ayna al-hilal, thumma ra'ayna al-hilal, thumma ra'ayna al-hilal. Hadith of Aisha, we saw the new moon. Then we saw the new moon. Then we saw the new moon. We got 2 months. In the riwayah, ra'ayna al-hilal, thumma ra'ayna al-hilal, thumma ra'ayna al-hilal, thumma ra'ayna al-hilal. Speaks of 3 months. And a fire was not lit in the house of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. No fire. And the basis meaning of that, no cooked food. That's why some of them argue that the Prophet ﷺ's diet is a raw diet. If we're trying to understand what is the diet of the Prophet ﷺ, yes, you would tend towards his diet being raw. He rarely has cooked food, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And then the standard staple, if I ask what's your staple, what's my staple? His staple is dates and water. That's his staple. Eating is exceptional to him, then his staple is dates and water, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-aswadani, as it's called, the 2 black things. On that day we will be asked about the blessings Allah Ta'ala bestowed. Al-aswadani, these are the two black things the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said. And then even in terms of the dates, rare is he having the mashallah, the ajwa, the ajwa that we all get, mashallah, that we all look for, and he counseled us to go for the ajwa, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But how rare is ajwa upon the tongue of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? That I found the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yani qurfasa, then he's squatting sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with his back against the wall, and he's got a dakal of the worst type of date, the dates that the farmer throws away. That he'd have the dakal sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yakuluhu, and he'd be eating it min ju' due to intense hunger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hakada sallallahu alayhi wa sallam keeps his back straight. And so likewise those who walk the path. We mentioned one of the Imams of Futuwwa, we mentioned Sayyidina Qadi Zakir al-Ansari, rahimahullah ta'ala, who Imam al-Sha'rani quotes, the great Qadi Zakir al-Ansari, as it relates to Futuwwa and the Futuwwa in the Muhammadan covenants. That he said, Qadi Zakir al-Ansari, that we'll find him inside of Cairo, he'd have no food whatsoever. At night, when everybody's retired in their beds, the great Qadi lived over 100 years of age, mashallah, you'd find him going for, the souk, where they'd be selling vegetables, what have you, everyone's gone home. The stuff people have thrown away. Hakada, you see the things now, people going to the supermarket bins and what have you. Hakada Qadi Zakir al-Ansari was. He'd go through the souk of Cairo, and he'd just be picking up all of the things people have thrown away on the floor, got rid of. He would just take it, wash it, hakada he would eat. Radiallahu anhu, what the great Qadi Zakir al-Ansari, rahimahullah ta'ala, becomes one of the greatest imams of religion ever. Radiallahu anhum warda'am. And remember, this is not ittirar. Because remember, when we speak about the imams, if you remember, think about these imams are extremely capable people. I mean, they're brilliant people. What I'm trying to say, if they wanted dunya sahl, musahal for them. It's easy and facilitated for them. If they wanted to go into the world, they'd be the most successful people in the world. But, so it's not ittirar. They're not forced to live that way. But it is ikhtiyar. I think like Sheikh Jamal mentioned yesterday with Habib Umar, that you don't study out of being compelled, but ikhtiyaran, make it the choice, the life choice. This is the path you want to pursue, because it's the path of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And so the eighth benefit is the bodily health, which results from eating little. Eating little. Nasallahu alayhi wa sallam.